Are you spinning your wheels trying to grow your author business, posting constantly, burning out, and wondering why your sales haven't moved? What if the problem isn't effort, but strategy? Today's guest has helped thousands of authors break past the chaos and build real momentum without losing their minds. If you're ready to scale smarter, stay locked in. Jonny Andrews is an online business strategist, speaker, and longtime advocate for the indie authors, and he's also a multi-time guest here on the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. He's built publishing systems, taught 6- and 7-figure author strategies, and helped fiction and nonfiction writers transform their creative work into a real business. He's been behind the curtain of some of the most successful author brands, and today he's here to help you cut the fluff and grow on your own terms. Welcoming back to the podcast, my boy, Jonny Andrews. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, and thank you for having me back. I do enjoy our chats.
I'll tell you, I think we're going on maybe 7 or 8 times that we've worked together in some capacity.
I think it depends on what timeline you're looking at, but yeah, we might be skipping around toward 32 in some of the other universes.
Exactly. But
I watch too many Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's okay. You and me both, because I caught the reference. But boy, we've got a lot of ground to cover today, because obviously this is a very deep topic of scaling a business without burning out. Because obviously scaling, it's exciting. People want to grow that business, but a lot of people are overwhelmed at that. So let's just walk it back here. What does scaling your author business really mean, and what does it look like in practice?
Well, okay, first of all, that's a pretty stinking good question, because it can look like different things to different people, but I'll tell you what it means to me. It's basically the ability to do more with less. And when you can do more with less, I'm not talking about like selling less books or anything like that. I'm talking about the philosophy that I like. I know I mentioned it before, but minimum movement, maximum impact. So the first thing is, when it comes to authors, I think most people, if they've, hung out with us before, they know how I feel about it. It's like, authors you're going to, AI and all that other stuff, whatever, you're still a workhorse. That's still what's going to happen. So that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the skeletal structure behind what you're doing, because your goal should be to always be selling more with less effort. And what that looks like, and here's what's crazy. You don't need a lot of external fans with this kind of thing. And I've been proving this more and more and more lately. So, I've built tons of these, book ecosystems, and I took the same skeletal structure, helped the wife at the time blow up that charcuterie business. It was the same skeletal structure with that. And then I took that and turned it into, over 595,000 group for, taking charcuterie as an association. Mm-hmm. Same thing that I did back, when I started in 2011 with vampires. So vampires can also sell charcuterie, for those of you who might be curious. Well, what all that is building up what in today's day and age is a newsletter business, not what authors tend to think of just as, oh, it's my newsletter, but it's really a newsletter business. And that is essentially having something that's going to go out at least twice a week to these people. That's not all about buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, but is more talking about, just connection with, from an author perspective, like, what are you up to? What are you writing? What's going on? And sending them out to show them stuff that you've probably run into. So it's really chill, actually. It's not a big deal at all. But what that does is it gives you the ability to leverage your audience. Now, the problem with social media, is that when you post, in almost every case, maybe 5% of the people that follow you or are fans or subscribers or whatever on social are going to know that you did it. That's just the nature of the beast. Like, organic content is great. Yes, you should do some, but you don't have to do oceans of it, because what you are going to do instead is build your subscriber base, your email subscriber base, by running simple ads. It's absolutely vital to do this. And like, in today's day and age, it's ridiculously simple. But what that does is it allows you to get to that point of hit send, make money. It's a decent, I like that equation.
It's probably one of my favorite equations. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But you're
Yeah,
talking
minimum movement,
about
maximum impact.
you're talking about ads and running them. I think first of all, one, we have to address the elephant in the room. A lot of authors get really scared or overwhelmed or even intimidated by the prospect of email marketing. Now we've added an extra layer of friction on top of that, being ads. Of course, what type of ads are they? I'm assuming Facebook or maybe Google or something else like that. So
Yep.
alleviate some of the concerns that some people have in breaking into email marketing, as well as the second item.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you just the harsh reality of ads, and that is if you're not running them right now,
Yeah.
you're losing your shirt. It's that period, hard stop. There is no alternative to this.
Yeah.
And here's why. Back in the day, and I've been doing Facebook and Google ads and Amazon, everything since literally those platforms started. I'm like old man Winter in this space. Um, there's something happening right now with Facebook ads. And I like to pride myself on making complex things simple. They went ahead and took that crown right off my head. They're like, no, 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 let us handle this. Something's going on with Facebook ads right now
Yeah.
where when you run these things, if you've set up the tracking pixel, which is just a piece of code that you copy and paste, onto your website, it's literally that simple. So as an author, if you can't copy and paste, rethink like your life choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on now, like let's be honest here. Back in the day, like let's even call it 2012, yeah, this stuff was pretty complicated.
Yeah.
But what's happening right now is people who have apprehension around this stuff, that's just kind of those are fear echoes from a bygone era. This is nothing to be scared of.
Okay.
You don't need to spend $1 billion a day. I mean, I'll spend, anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand, depending on what I'm doing. But then again, I'm doing different stuff.
Yeah.
For an author, you want to just run something like $3 to $5 a day with just a continuous, what I like to call slow cook. You don't need to worry about targeting at all anymore. Yeah, it's crazy. You set up your ad so basically in an author situation, what you do is you tell the ad, I want leads. That's what an email subscriber is in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And so you have this little snippet of code on the thank you page that tells the pixel, hey, that's a lead when someone opts in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basic, simple, even the pages with opt-in. There's nothing difficult about that. If there's less than 1,000 viable solutions for template style pages, I would be shocked. Everybody and their brother has some kind of company out there that'll give you a very usable, mobile responsive, blah, 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 like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So all this stuff could be done with templates. And all you do is offer them, a free bundle. And, is it BookBub? Am I saying that right? I know we
BookBub?
used to talk about,
Yeah, they have the featured deals. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They also have the ads.
BookBub. Yeah, and BookBub is great for being able to deliver the content so that it'll go onto their Kindle device and things like that. But the biggest thing here is you need to be able to follow up with the people that have subscribed to you. Because if you really want to get mad about it, you can get mad about social media. Because there's lots of folks who are like, oh, you got to be doing all this, forward-facing content. Not really. And I'll give you an example. I brought in over 20,000 in sales. Now, not with a book, just to be clear. Like I'm talking about digital courses and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was over the course of just a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks max. And I hadn't posted any social content in almost 10 weeks at that point.
Wow.
And I was doing this so I'm not playing the organic game. Like I do post organic content, but and by the way, don't go that long. Like that's a bit much, okay? I'm what they like to call it as an envelope pusher, where it's like,
Yeah.
that's not okay. Maybe once a month at the absolute minimum. Ideally might be, say, once a week or something if you want to be on the chill, on a higher end. But you don't have to worry about it because so you can put your efforts where it needs to be,
Okay.
which is just communicating with these people and being really cool and chill about it. Then what happens, and I've worked with lots of big name authors who, they're like, oh, well, I hit New York Times every time. I'm like, well, that's great and all, but how about I'm like, why stop there? Come on now. It's like, we're going to Mars. that kind of thing. So what I'll do is I'll help them put together a sequence of events where, yeah, they're going to post some content online on social, but it's all coming out of their email list, where they're going to run something that's like, the pre-launch, and then you have like the bribe to buy kind of thing, and it goes to a page. Very simple template-based stuff, where they're like, hey, grab my book between this date and this date, forward the receipt here, and I'm going to send you a free bonus or whatever for doing that. Right? It works brilliantly. I think she said she sold almost double the number of books that she normally does.
Oh,
In that
nice.
time period. And again, like I said, she was already USA Today, New York Times bestseller. So that's not nothing to shake a stick at.
Right, right.
So it's focus on growing that newsletter, focus on consistent communication. When you're working with something like AI, which I know everybody's got a particular opinion on that,
Yeah.
the reality is, cat's out of the bag, kids. Use it, or I don't know, whatever happens to you at that point. But you can learn how to have that help you make things easier.
Mhm.
So anytime you catch yourself saying, this scares me, or this is hard, my team calls him Chad, Chat GPT. Get the premium version. It's helpful.
It is, yeah.
But you can have a decent conversation and and get to the point where it's like you can have it crank out the skeletal structure of whatever the emails are that you want to do, and then go in there and edit it, make it your own. Like what else is editing? That's just how it all works anyway. Who cares if it's a robot or, I don't know, your nanny or whatever it is that you do. Everyone's weird these days. I just have to assume. So yeah, that's all. That's all you're really looking at when it comes to, if you really want to scale your author business. You have to be able to scale the volume of humanity that you can contact with like a kind of situation.
Yeah.
And you have to do it authentically. Like, as an author, that is sort of your lot in life, is no matter how your books are created, it's gotta be an authentic experience for the reader, because that's what everybody is looking for, right? Like, good stuff done in a real way. They're looking to feel a particular sort of feeling, that's up to you. And so it's whoever the author is. So if you're struggling, that's what you want to do. That's the one thing that you can really focus on. Hopefully that answered that question in the shortest way possible.
Yeah, well, something that crosses my mind here, and this is something that you and I have spoken on a regular basis. Heck, we even had this conversation, I believe, with Robert G. Culp and even Sarah Walday during the whole book rescue series, where we talked a lot about mindset. You're real big about mindset. So before building systems or teams for scaling, like, what mindset shift needs to happen for long-term success?
Don't say this is hard, or I'm afraid of it, or whatever it is. You can say, I'm going to learn it, because, and that's one of those things where it's like, not that I want to get too woo-woo into this, but self-talk matters. It really does. And when you've programmed your subconscious to look at these things in a negative light, then, and that's the other thing is, and heaven forbid I say this one, but you probably won't catch me hanging around in a lot of author groups.
Oddly enough.
Shocking, because and this, I think this is absolutely terrible, but I think a lot of, especially fiction authors, it's the most mentally and emotionally and almost spiritually detrimental place you can be, because this sort of roving group of, I don't know, like literate demons. What do you call them? I don't even, what, I'm at a loss. Like, are out there just absolutely hamstringing people who would normally have glorious careers if they would just get out of there and figure it out on their own. So if someone in your space is being consistently negative, talking crap about other people, talking crap about themselves, or whatever it is, that's your cue to leave. Okay, you've got to get those people out of your life, because all they're going to do is create that whole, what do they do? How do you keep a crab in a bucket kind of situation, and they're just
Yeah.
going to drag you down.
Yep.
It's really, really bad, and I think all of us know this, but I'm just going to tell you, like, it affects you. Because, and I'll give you this is how your existence works, right? What you believe, positive or negative, and most of these things are hidden from us, but what you believe is going to control what and how you think. And what and how you think is going to control what you do. And what you do is going to determine your outcomes. So if you want to change an outcome, you got to reverse engineer it. Now, this doesn't need to get complicated, but I think that's a very linear flow. The other part of it being that, feelings aren't facts, so you can feel a particular way about something. You should question why that is. Yeah. Because normally if you feel if somebody, like for example, how you said a lot of people have fear around ads.
Right.
Why is it that they have fear around ads? Is it a scarcity mindset? Is it that, well, I have history where things haven't worked out the way that I wanted them to? And it's like, okay, all fair. The question is, did you know what you were doing the first time when you created that history?
So true.
Probably not. So, I mean, I have yet to run into somebody who does not say with the utmost conviction that ads don't work for me. I'm like, oh, well, I guess you've decided that, right? That's how it works. It's like if you've decided that's the case, you're now believing that's true, and you are literally going to take actions, even subtle ones, that will sabotage a positive outcome because your subconscious wants to prove that you're right. That's what it's doing. It's the most insane thing. It took me obviously, years and tons of shenanigans to get to the point like, it's like, oh, wow, you mean this dumpster fire is my fault? Shoot. Okay, let's go get it fixed now. But that if you really want to think about mindsets, that's how it all works.
I wanted to kind of hit the mindset thing because I don't think you and I have ever really spoke about it in any of our interviews before, and I always find that that's so crucial, and especially when you're going into a system like email marketing plus paid advertisements or CPC ad campaigns. It can be very overwhelming, and I do believe a mindset shift, is the best way to kind of go. So let's go back to the talking about the email marketing as well as the running the ads. What are like the best first steps for someone to kind of tackle? Like, what's the email marketing platform I'm going to use? What's the frequency emails I'm going to go out, and what should I be saying to them? Because you say, well, don't just promote the heck out of your book. There's value you're going to want to deliver. What does that value mean, and what does that look like?
Well, all good questions, but let's take it to the root thing. Know your who. All right. And there's a lot, and even folks who have been doing this like over 20 years like me will mess this up, because this is not the easiest thing in the world, because whatever it is that you're selling might be something that everybody likes. Who knows? But I promise you that is not how it's going to work. You want to, I call it deli thin slice. Just like Gladys gets the ham and puts it in the machine. It's like, I'd like this really paper thin for, Gary's bat mitzvah. Or whatever it is. I guess it would be turkey in that example. But my point is that, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
You made the perfect joke right there, and you didn't even realize it.
I don't know. It's like, oh, there you go. But, oh my God. Yeah, you got a deli thin slice your who. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. Figure out that exact person. You can, and again, this is what, our good buddy Chad has, we've been able to teach him to really help with this stuff whenever we're going to get into a market with like a newsletter or something like that, which, by the way, I think I don't know if I directly said this, but I kind of implied this works everywhere. That's how the whole thing comes together, and that's how it all works, is that you figure out who this who is, and then you're going to give them something for free. Very simple. Like, everybody in the author world at this point should know what a lead magnet is. Everybody should have some sort of freebie. Give that freebie away. That freebie should be the beginning of their series, because everybody's going to be reading the series if you're not doing it already. That's how it is. You want to have some kind of follow-up to make sure that they're going to read it. Now, in my world, I'm going to do a 10-day follow-up where it's every day, and it just kind of like walks them through the process. and it gives them more information, bite size, what do they call that? Snackable content style.
Yeah.
While, going, hey, here's the rest of the video. Now, in my world, I'll create a sales. So, for example, there's that stuff called direct response marketing where I used to refer to it as like lampooning. It's like creating a caricature of yourself. Luckily, we've all gotten a little, well, at least I hope I have, gotten a little better at this, where it's more of all right, let's have a conversation with this who, let's identify with what it is that they have experienced, usually like a negative kind of thing. And then let's walk them through how to solve that stuff before we're like, hey, buy my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that framework in the ads. I do that framework across the emails, and I do that framework on the sales page in the sales video as well as with the regular sales letter. So far, it's kicking butt and taking names. I had a sneaky suspicion. Now, with authors, it's the same thing with fewer parts. It's not any more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Like, who is it? Why do they want to read what you have? And then also with you can start to reveal some subtleties. What are some Easter eggs that you've put in there? That's all it is just give them entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
Picture Russell Crowe standing there in front of your who, dressed as Gladiator. Are you not entertained? That's all it is. And just do that for at least a week, every day. Don't worry, they will. Some people are going to unsubscribe. That's the other thing to get over.
Gonna happen.
It's sort of, yeah. And I think that's a massive lesson because a lot of people are out there chasing. And when someone's like, it's not for me, it's like, hey, you know what? Thanks for trying. Have a good one. I'll delete you on your way out.
Unsubscribing can also be actually kind of nice if you think about it, because they didn't hit the spam and they didn't just ignore your email. So they've done you the favor of increasing your analytics in a good way.
100% true. Yeah. And I'll go ahead and, so for example, in my world, if people end up buying the stuff, the system automatically unsubscribes them from the prospect list and puts them on the buyer list. And then maybe every couple of days or whatever it is, I'll just, either myself or someone else will go through and just delete the unsubscribes on that. The guy, there's no point to have them on the list. It's like, yay, bye. Yeah. And, I always like to every now and then look at the analytics and be like, ooh, look at that. 82% of the unsubscribes bought my stuff. Yeah. I just made that part up, but I feel better. Hopefully
It felt good.
Exactly. Now with, if you're playing the Amazon game, obviously the black hole of data, you're not going to get that kind of analytics on that thing, but you also don't really need to because we're really just talking about books. But you want to be in front of them mildly consistently, not just with information, but infotainment. Entertain them. That's why they joined your stuff in the first place.
Yeah. You
can have other short stories that you've written. You probably put them on a blog. Back in the day, and this is old school, like we're talking like 2004, was it Neil Strauss in The Game? With that, like, what was the pickup artist community or whatever it was? They were talking about, it's like, if you really want to influence someone, you got to like take them on a journey. So it's like you meet the girl at the bar and you're like, hey, what's up, girl? And then you take her on a journey over to the jukebox. And then you take her on a journey over to the pool table. I'm like, that's kind of a crappy journey. I hope she doesn't, But I'm like, that was a real short trip, lady. But that's what it is. And it actually does work. There's a psychological way of doing that. So there's a lot to be said for if you do have great content online, why don't you link to it? And that's the thing that you have them click. And that's what it is. And also the big one is walk them into the series so they have the opportunity to buy the stuff. That's what it is. And you can bribe them to buy. That's a big one right there. Is that if you can give them bonuses for buying, it's like, hey, if you bought this, forward the receipt to this thing, and I've got an auxiliary, what is it, short or something. You know this language better than I do at this point.
Yeah.
But it's like that. Like you can literally, say, hey, since you're on the list, I want you to buy this stuff, and I think you want to buy this stuff because you wouldn't be here if you didn't. So give me money. And I won't send Hector to, eat your family or whatever. Those things you put them at the bottom of the emails. That's what you do. Yeah.
So the million-dollar question, we're starting to get towards the end here is we've got a lot of information. How do we scale our author business in the most simplified way possible without burning out? So what's the best practices for us to build our email marketing, our email list, and also run these ads so that way we can build even more of our newsletter and sell more books and more products and services.
Well, it's exactly just this. Literally just do this, because this is what's called front-loaded effort, where you do the thing once it exists, then it exists. It's good, and what you can do then is spend some time tweaking it over time as you see more and more people. I call it eyeball washing, but then again, I'm weird. And it's like, you keep those ads going. So in terms of where do you put your focus? You put your focus exactly where you're going to put your focus anyway, which is writing more stuff. And now you have a framework for consistently building these humans that are going to buy the stuff that you're now making. And so instead of being frustrated and overwhelmed, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I sold, 15% more with this launch than I did with that last one because I did this. Like, oh, you mean this works? Yeah. Yeah, that's what it does. It works. So that's where you put your information. Yeah. Or not your information, but that's where you put your energy and your focus. Yeah, exactly. Right into there. Let it fill up. You'll tweak you'll create new ads and stuff, and everything is based around framework. That's what's nice. You don't need to spend a ton of time, trying to figure out some new thing every time. I don't know. It's like Hawaii Five-0 or whatever those shows. I haven't watched television since I was like a youth. But it's all the same stuff, right? It's all the same framework.
Yeah.
Every single thing. That's it. Just do that. Just do what works and do it consistently, and you'll be like, oh wow, look at me. I just bought an island.
Yeah, I think you and I were actually just talking about how it was like I'm on episode 287 of the podcast. So it's crazy when you just do things consistently, how much work piles up after a while. Exactly. We're starting to get towards the end of our interview here today, and of course I want to give you the stage here real briefly, because over the past several weeks I've actually been taking one of your mini courses in your Scale Your Hustle course series. The one I'm going through is the Faceless Video Empire. Faceless
Business Empire.
Faceless Business Empire. My apologies. I've been going through that. It's a good read, actually. You've done a lot of writing in there, because you originally were going to do a book out of that, but loved it so far. It's fantastic. You have so much more. Floor is yours. Share just a little bit more about Scale Your Hustle and how people can get a hold of you and all that other information.
Well, all right. Yeah, Scale Your Hustle is just kind of like the overall, call it the umbrella brand. And what I've been doing is just releasing just a series of helpful courses. I think, one of the biggest things, and again, this is my world, but I look at, the folks out there who are trying to generate more income because it's necessary at this point. This is no longer like optional for life. Stuff has happened in the world where it's like, all right, great. Now you need 11 jobs. But with this kind of stuff, I usually approach all this stuff like, okay, what can you do? Minimum movement, maximum impact, how you can increase revenue and all this. Faceless Business Empire, I put it out recently simply because before AI, it was complicated, but that is exactly what I've been talking about today. It's like, that's the framework behind how it works. That's how I grew, I love vampire novels, and then grew it to a point where I was able to sell that. And then from there, it's still going today. Like, so that was several years ago. Yeah. And it's, I think, if you look at the range and for the reasons or whatever, but 90% of it, up to 90% of businesses tend to fall over because the person who got it can't handle it. And it's like, here you go, boom. And it's the same thing that I've been doing since 2011. Oh, what? That's just how it all works. And that's why I put that course together, was like, okay, here's how you can grow these things. So does it work with your author business? Of course, absolutely. Does it work with almost every other? I think the one market I saw that it did not work as well was illegal arms deals. Like, that was a little awkward, and I think it was just because, honestly, I blame the cartels, that they really roughed it up. They didn't follow any instructions. It ruined it for everybody. Yeah. They did. They just shot that full of holes. Yeah.
Johnny,
But
there's
yeah.
never
There you
a
go.
dull conversation with you, man. Folks, make sure you go over, check out scaleyourhustle.com, and of course, look at the Faceless Business Empire. That is one of the courses I'm going through currently right now. Some of this stuff is just blowing my mind. It's especially your story, your backstory of working with the Tiger King.
Oh,
That's,
Joe Exotic. Yeah, there's a
yes,
thing
that was
for you.
that was really cool. So folks will be able to get more information, some behind the scenes looks into how that went. Johnny, thank you so much. I'm going to kick you on over into the green room for right now. I'm going to say something here real quick to my live viewers as well and those listening. Big shout out and a special thanks to longtime guest and my good friend of the podcast, Johnny. It's always a pleasure having you here. Be sure you check out his sites and services by visiting the links inside the show notes. Join me next week when I'll be chatting with Angela Eureka Smith of Authortunities. She's going to talk a little bit more about book marketing opportunities that are available for authors and how you can capitalize on those things. Some of this stuff is free. Yeah, free. That's my favorite price. Till later, this has been Self Publishing with Dale, and I'll catch you next week.